Boston, 1919. A city bustling with life, energy, and the promise of a new decade. The streets were filled with the clatter of horse-drawn carriages, the chatter of people going about their daily lives, and the hum of industry. Boston was a city on the move, a city of progress and ambition. The North End, a vibrant neighborhood known for its tight-knit community and rich cultural heritage, was no exception. It was a place where the scent of the sea mingled with the aroma of fresh bread from local bakeries, where children played in the streets and neighbors knew each other by name. Yet, on a seemingly ordinary January afternoon, a low rumble shook the North End. It wasn't an earthquake. It wasn't thunder. It was something far more unexpected and far more devastating. A massive storage tank, containing over 2 million gallons of molasses, had burst. The tank, owned by the Purity Distilling Company, had stood as a towering presence in the neighborhood, a symbol of industrial might. Molasses is a thick, dark syrup that is a byproduct of the sugar-making process. It's created when sugarcane or sugar beets are crushed to extract their juice, which is then boiled to crystallize the sugar. The remaining liquid after the sugar crystals are removed is molasses. The wave of molasses surged through the streets with a force that no one could have anticipated. It moved at a speed of 35 miles per hour, sweeping away everything in its path. Buildings were flattened, horses and carriages were overturned, and people were caught in the sticky, suffocating flood. The sheer volume and speed of the molasses made it impossible to escape. The air, usually alive with the scent of the sea and fresh bread, turned heavy, thick with the cloying sweetness of molasses. The once familiar and comforting aroma now signaled danger and destruction. The neighborhood was transformed into a scene of chaos and despair. Rescue efforts were hampered by the sticky substance, making it difficult for first responders to reach those in need. It was the smell of chaos, of destruction, of a tragedy that would forever be known as the Great Molasses Flood. The aftermath was devastating. 21 people lost their lives and over 150 were injured. The cleanup took weeks, and the scars left on the community lasted much longer. The Great Molasses Flood remains one of the most bizarre and tragic events in Boston's history, a reminder of the unexpected ways in which disaster can strike. The North End in 1919 was a vibrant tapestry of humanity. Immigrants, mainly Italian, had made this neighborhood their home. The air buzzed with the sounds of life children playing, vendors hawking their wares, and the steady rhythm of industry. Factories and warehouses lined the waterfront, a testament to Boston's industrial might. Among them stood an imposing structure, a 50-foot-tall steel tank holding over 2 million gallons of molasses. It was a symbol of progress, but soon it would become a harbinger of disaster. The Purity Distilling Company's molasses tank dominated the landscape. It was a behemoth, hastily erected just a few years prior. Its purpose was simple: to store molasses for the production of industrial alcohol. However, from the outset, the tank was plagued with problems. Leaks were commonplace, often leaving sticky puddles on the ground. Residents complained of the metallic groans emanating from the structure. These warnings, tragically, went unheeded. The stage was set for a catastrophe. On that fateful January day, the unthinkable happened. With a deafening roar, the tank ruptured. Millions of gallons of molasses, a thick, viscous wave, surged forward with terrifying speed. The wave, estimated to be traveling at 35 miles per hour, ripped through the streets. Buildings crumbled, reduced to rubble under the sheer force of the deluge. People, caught off guard, were swept off their feet, submerged in the sticky torrent. The immediate aftermath was nothing short of catastrophic. The streets of Boston, once bustling with life, were now scenes of utter devastation. The molasses, which had burst forth with such ferocity, had transformed the landscape into a nightmarish tableau. Buildings that had stood for decades were reduced to rubble in mere moments. The molasses, now a deadly tide, left a trail of destruction in its wake. It flowed through the streets like a dark, viscous river, engulfing everything in its path. Cars, carts, and even people were swept away by its relentless force. The sheer volume of the molasses made it impossible to escape. Buildings lay in ruins, their foundations shattered. The force of the explosion had been so immense that it had torn apart structures as if they were made of paper. Wooden beams, bricks, and glass littered the streets, creating a hazardous landscape that was difficult to navigate. The air was thick with the cries of the injured and the terrified. People wandered the streets in shock, their faces etched with disbelief and horror. Many were searching for loved ones, hoping against hope that they had survived the catastrophe. The sense of loss and despair was palpable. Rescue efforts began immediately, but the scene was chaotic. Emergency responders, volunteers, and even passers-by joined forces to help those trapped in the molasses. However, the thick, sticky substance made it incredibly difficult to move and work efficiently. Every step was a struggle, every movement hampered by the clinging molasses. The molasses, thick and clinging, hampered rescue workers. They waded through the sticky mire, their progress slow and arduous. Many had to use makeshift tools to free those trapped beneath the molasses. The physical and emotional toll on the rescuers was immense, but they pressed on, driven by the hope of saving lives. Horses, trapped in the sticky mire, had to be euthanized. These noble animals, unable to free themselves, suffered greatly. Their plight added to the overall sense of tragedy and loss. The decision to euthanize them was heart-wrenching, but necessary to end their suffering. The final count was grim: 21 souls lost, over 150 injured. The disaster left an indelible mark on the city of Boston. The community came together to mourn the lost and support the survivors. The memory of that day would linger for generations, a somber reminder of the fragility of life and the unpredictability of fate. The cleanup was a Herculean task. The molasses, now mixed with debris, had hardened in the cold winter air. It took weeks to clear the streets, with hundreds of workers aided by the Coast Guard, using seawater to wash away the sticky residue. The disaster sent shockwaves throughout the nation. Lawsuits followed, with victims and their families seeking justice. The disaster exposed the lack of safety regulations and the negligence of the company. The investigation into the disaster revealed a cascade of errors. The tank, hastily constructed with substandard materials, was flawed from the start. Its construction was unsupervised and the tank was never properly tested. The rapid fermentation of the molasses, coupled with warm temperatures in the days leading up to the disaster, increased the pressure inside the tank. This perfect storm of negligence and unforeseen circumstances led to the catastrophic failure of the structure. The Great Molasses Flood, though a tragedy, had a profound impact on industrial safety standards. The disaster highlighted the need for stricter regulations, better construction practices, and increased accountability. The disaster served as a grim reminder of the human cost of negligence. It led to significant improvements in building codes and inspection processes, not just in Boston but across the nation. The legacy of the Great Molasses Flood extends far beyond the cobblestone streets of Boston's North End. It stands as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance and responsibility in an industrial age. The disaster forced industries to acknowledge the potential consequences of cutting corners and ignoring safety protocols. It ushered in an era of greater accountability where the welfare of workers and the public took precedence. The Great Molasses Flood of 1919, a peculiar and tragic event, left an indelible mark on Boston. On January 15, 1919, a massive storage tank filled with over 2 million gallons of molasses burst, sending a wave of sticky syrup through the streets of the North End. The flood reached speeds of up to 35 miles per hour, demolishing buildings, overturning vehicles, and tragically claiming the lives of 21 people while injuring 150 others. The sheer force and unexpected nature of the disaster left the city reeling, and its impact was felt for decades. It serves as a poignant reminder of the devastating consequences of negligence and the importance of learning from past mistakes. The investigation that followed revealed that the tank had been poorly constructed and inadequately tested. The company responsible, United States Industrial Alcohol, faced numerous lawsuits, leading to significant changes in regulations and safety standards. This disaster highlighted the critical need for rigorous safety protocols and accountability in industrial practices, setting a precedent for future legislation. While the molasses may have long since been washed away, the memory of the disaster lingers, a testament to the fragility of life and the importance of ensuring safety in an ever-evolving industrial landscape. The cleanup efforts were monumental, taking weeks to remove the molasses from the streets, buildings, and even the harbor. For years, residents claimed they could still smell the sweet scent of molasses on hot summer days. This lingering memory serves as a powerful reminder of the event and its lasting impact on the community. The flood, though a bitter tragedy, ultimately ushered in a new era of awareness and responsibility, forever changing the landscape of industrial safety for the better. The lessons learned from this disaster led to the implementation of stricter building codes and more stringent oversight of industrial operations. Today, the legacy of the Great Molasses Flood is evident in the improved safety measures and regulations that protect workers and communities alike. It stands as a stark reminder of the importance of vigilance and the ongoing need to prioritize safety in all aspects of industrial development. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to Silent Epics and hit the notification bell for more captivating tales from history. Join us next time as we uncover another hidden chapter from the past. Thanks for watching.